Hi, this is Jeff Lesher with the first 2021 What's the Point? And believe it or not, this is the beginning of our third year creating weekly videos released midweek that are intended to jumpstart your focus and your energy to make sure that you accomplish as much as you can, at least within this week. And as we kick off the latest year in our lives, a year that all of us, I know, are counting on to be better in many ways than the year just ended, but hopefully no less informed by some really powerful lessons that we've learned in 2020 and will continue to learn into 2021. This is a moment for us to use the calendar as our friend to intensify the effort with which we plan, that we not only enter the day and the week, but we enter the year with an idea of what would it be like at the end of the year if this is a really great year? And what do I need to do today in order to get closer to that outcome? Now that's the magic brew, if you will, that we can use to get to a better place. And one lesson I was hoping coming into 2021 that I would no longer need to or be compelled to use the current occupant of the White House in the United States as an example of leadership, and almost always as a negative example of leadership. But at least one more time, let's draw it out. But I'm going to put a little curve on something that's happening and make it a good thing, which is if you repeat the same thing enough, a certain number of people will believe it, even when it's total BS, and or BS that is intended to be bad or get people to do bad or believe something that is bad. But if you just take the core of that, if you repeat the same thing enough, you can believe it. And if it's true, and if it's valid, and if it has a good purpose, especially one beyond just for your interest, your benefit, how powerful could that be? And in working with so many people as I do who are trying to be more, and especially be more and be better for others and for a purpose well beyond themselves and certainly beyond their own interests, one of the things, if not the major thing getting in their way, is them and the stories that they tell themselves of essentially why they can't or why they shouldn't or why they should wait for another time to do whatever that thing is. Start telling yourself a different story. Why you can, why you should, why the time is right now. Because you'll believe it. And when you believe it, they'll believe it. That's the power of mirror neurons. So it's not just talking yourself into a better feeling. It's actually creating a stronger connection and the belief and the permission with yourself to go out and do something in a way that others will be persuaded to join you in or to support in some way. And I just finished previewing a book written by an author, a gentleman named Kevon Keon, and the book is called What is Water? And Kevon's going to be a guest of ours on our podcast, Inevitable, the Future of Work, coming up, and talk about this in more detail. But he's written a book ostensibly for young leaders. And the reason he did that was that he wanted to help accelerate their experiential context so that they could draw on lessons learned more quickly in order to be as effective as leaders with more gray in their beard, more experience. And I thought that was incredibly optimistic and generous, assuming that those of us who have been around longer necessarily not only have experience, but the perspective to use the experience for good. And I would say we all have the opportunity to do that better. And there's a ton of stuff in the book, but a couple of the things that relate to this story that we tell ourselves or could tell ourselves have to do with things that have happened to us that weren't necessarily positive in the moment, but that we can draw on in a positive way. And how long and how deeply we let negatives affect us, that if we can shallow the degree of the negative feeling, make it less deep, and also reduce the duration of that, that we can productively benefit from it and also move on, as the expression goes, and that we have some degree of control over that, which is the principal area of focus in the book, which is to focus on things that you can control. I would expand that slightly, not just control, but also influence, because what you can influence, you may ultimately be able to control. But the idea is not to count on things over which you have no control, because that puts you in a very defensive posture, or at least a neutral posture, where you're waiting for somebody else and something else to happen to allow you to move forward. So what you're in control of, making to a certain extent a positive out of a negative, not in a Pollyannish way, but in a really productive way, and not being weighed down for too long or too much by the negative. There was another aspect that intrigued me, which is strenuous gifts. I've talked before about being the go-to person to the point where it becomes a drag, where your skills that made you the person that they sought out to do this thing as the go-to person, those skills begin to atrophy, and eventually you can land in day jail, hating to get up every morning to go do that thing that you do all the time. And a strenuous gift is something akin to that in Kevon Keon's book. It's something that you do well, but it doesn't bring you energy. It really only takes your energy. And so to be aware of that, and energy is something we talk a lot about in terms of high performance. And it's something in Andrew Friedman's book, Thrive, that I've talked about briefly, that helps you understand that it's not good or bad, right or wrong. I can do the job, but if I'm not really aligned, highly compatible with the needs of the job, the energy necessary for me to be successful in that role, or at least in that facet of the role, is likely to be far greater than somebody else. And if there are enough of those areas of lack of compatibility, that may not be the best role for me, because I'm going to really wear myself down and eventually out by trying to be aligned. But let's come back to where we started and what's really important here. Decide on the message that is going to inspire you and therefore inspire others. And use that as the beacon of the direction that you want to set for yourself. Where do you want to get to by the end of the year? And what are the things that you can do this week and today in order to progress in that direction? And the reasons that you can and will be successful, not that you should just aim for that destination, but that you can get there, you want to get there, and the things that you'll use to get there will help you experience along the way how you want to feel in order to continuously recharge those batteries. And we can use these conversations to help you continue to progress in that direction, which is remembering that when you set out to accomplish things in the course of the week, and then you see one of these videos, no matter what I'm talking about, at least use it as a bookmark that says, hey, let me go back to what I said I was going to do this week and today, see where I am, and I've still got time to adjust, to recalibrate as necessary, to maybe make a better plan and figure out a way to get to that place that I want. Because here's the last little snippet that I'll tell you. I was talking to the head of a business this morning that I'm helping modestly support in terms of their seeking of their next round of funding. And she's going through this learning experience to help support her entrepreneurship. And she was saying that she's right now like a C student in this course, metaphorically because it's not graded, and she wants to at least be a B student and not waste the experience. And I said, what would make it a B experience or even better for you? So forget what the course, the program is trying to accomplish. What are you trying to accomplish? And what are you doing already that's in alignment with that outcome? And what else would you need to do? And suddenly this opportunity and the way she was feeling about where she is now, much less her ability to get to the place she wants to be, was much more positive and accessible, because the A for her, if you will, is different than the A for other people, and that's okay. In fact, that's the point.